Hi, welcome back to another video, and this is going to be the first sit-down video in a while. We're going to be doing the mid-year book freakout tag, which I wasn't planning on doing. I know I'm really late to this train. It's already August when you're seeing this. I wasn't planning on doing this one this year because I don't know, I just didn't feel like it, but now I do. And especially because I only started making videos again in July, so I haven't yet mentioned this year any of the books that I read prior to that. So I will be doing that with this tag, and I believe I will only mention one July book in the first question. Other than that, only books that I haven't mentioned yet. So without further ado, let's get into it. So the first question is, best book you've read so far in 2023? So the answer to that is definitely Fool's Errand by Robin Hobb, which I did finish in my last vlog, so I will link it up in the cards. But yes, it's definitely my favorite so far. It's the first book in the 𝐜𝐭𝐚𝐦𝐻𝐭 trilogy and the 7th book in the Realm of the Elderling series. It follows the main character of the Farseer trilogy some years after the last book in that trilogy. And it basically introduces him again. It tells you what he has been up to these past years, what he's up to right now. It introduces you, it sets up the characters that you already know from the other trilogy as well, what they're doing now. It sets up new characters. The plot was really interesting. The relationship development was stellar. The character development is always stellar with Robin Hobb, and I'm just really excited to keep going with it. I cried like a baby as well, so it was very emotional. The pacing was really good. It was just truly a really solid book, and I highly recommend it. So yeah, definitely my favorite so far, and I'm thinking it's probably going to be my favorite of the year. We shall see. The second question is, best sequel you've read so far in 2023. So here is where I'm cheating a bit, because I'm going to mention another Robin Hobb book. And, you know, technically, both Fool's Errand and the one that I'm going to mention now are sequels because they're all part of the Realm of the Elderling series. But I was like, you know what? Fool's Errand is the first in the 𝐜𝐴𝐻𝐭 trilogy, and this one is the last one in the Love Ship Traders trilogy, which is Ship of Destiny. So I'm going to talk about it because I loved it too, and I wanted to talk about both of those books because I just love them, and I love Robin Hobb. I love this series. It's my favorite fantasy series so far. And I wanted to talk about both of them. So this is the last one in the Love Ship Traders trilogy. It's a nautical fantasy. It essentially follows this one family, the Vestrit family, and their family dynamics. And essentially in this world, there's a type of wood that people use to create these life ships that come to life after 3 generations of the same family dies in the deck of the life ship. And so you're following the Vestrit family as their life ship awakens, and they go on their adventures. You have multiple POVs, very different character dynamics and character arcs. You have also POVs outside of the family, one of them being a pirate that wants to be a pirate king, and it's all very compelling, and it came together so well. I completely fell in love with one of the characters who I will mention later on in this video, but I really loved basically all of the character arcs, with the exception of one that I didn't totally love, but I still think it made sense. Great writing. It was great as well when it came to the world building, because we got to see much more from the world where the Realm of the Elderlings is set. So yes, I definitely really loved the sequel. I thought it was the perfect ending to this trilogy, and for me, the trilogy only got better and better, so that was great too. The next question is, new release you haven't read yet, but you want to. So I have a couple for this. The first one being Fourth Wing, because, you know, people just have been loving it, and I do like fantasy romance, and it has dragons, so I want to see what it's all about, see if I like it, and I'm excited. I think it's going to be at least a fun time. We shall see. Maybe I won't like it. I don't know. We shall see. And I think I might vlog it, so look out for that. And the other one that I really want to read is Immortal Longings by 𝐜𝐭_𝐬𝐭. 𝐜𝐭_𝐬𝐭 wrote These Violent Delights, which is a historical YA fantasy that I read last year. I think it was my last book of the year, and I loved it. so much. It was one of my favorite books of the year, one of my new favorite books of all time, and I haven't read the sequel yet, but I really, really want to. It was a Romeo and Juliet retelling. I just completely fell in love with it, and this one is 𝐭𝐤𝐭's adult fantasy debut. And one thing that really jumped at me when I read These Violent Delights is that her writing is really, really good. It's really immersive. It's simple and to the point, but descriptive enough. Really, it's so good. And I was actually really shocked because These Violent Delights is her debut novel. And it has great writing. Usually, you know, the writing in the first novel is a bit clunkier. It's really, really good. So I can't wait to see what 𝐭𝐤𝐭 will do with her adult fantasy. Okay, next is most anticipated release for the second half of the year. That is, without a doubt, Secret Project Number 4 by Brandon Sanderson. I'm not going to say the title because some people don't want to know anything about the books, but either way, I'm really, really excited because this book actually follows one of my favorite characters in Stormlight Archive. The Stormlight Archive is my favorite Brandon Sanderson series. I love the Cosmere. And yeah, I'm really, really excited because I really love that character and I've always wanted to know more about them ever since the first book in the series, but I never thought that I would know much. And definitely not so soon. Like, I thought that there was a possibility in the future of knowing more about him because he's connected, not related. He's connected to another character that is very mysterious that most people really like, but that we don't know much about. And so I thought, you know what, maybe we will know more about this specific character, but only in the future. But no, we're getting a novel right now. So I'm really, really excited. I can't wait. Question 5 is biggest disappointment. That is easily People We Meet on Vacation. That was my first video back. It was me reading People We Meet on Vacation. I'm going to link it in the cards as well. But yes, it's romance, friends to lovers romance. The premise is really fun and sweet, but I just really did not like the execution at all. I ended up not liking the characters. Essentially, okay, so the book is really popular, so everyone knows what it's about, but essentially it follows two best friends who always go on a summer vacation every single year together, but 2 years ago they had a falling out, you don't know why, and now Poppy, the main character, is trying to salvage their relationship by going on another vacation with Alex. And that's all fine and good. You go back and forth between past and present, trying to piece everything together and seeing what happens. And that's all fine. I think the premise is good. The writing is good. I did really enjoy the very beginning of the book, like the first 40% or so. But then it just gets a bit repetitive and the execution is not good. The book is way too long for what it is, for what it needs to tell. It doesn't need that many pages. And my issue mostly is that the characters behave like teenagers to me. Like, they're in their 30s, but they, to me, feel like teenagers. So I was reading definitely an adult book, but with characters who are behaving very childishly. So that's mostly what I didn't like. I think I might like other books by this author better, but this was definitely a miss for me, and I was so sad because Friends to Lovers is my favorite romance trope, but it is what it is. Number 6 is biggest surprise. So for this one, I'm saying Hush. It's a Batman comic collection called Hush, and I really, really enjoyed it. I'm saying it's a surprise because, first of all, I don't really read comics. I think comics are cool, and when I say comics, by the way, I'm talking about comics in general. I don't read comics in general. I read manga, but I don't really read comics. But in this instance, I'm specifically talking about superhero comics, like Marvel, DC comics. I only really like specific characters. I'm not necessarily interested in knowing everyone and following all the plot lines and understanding how comics work because it seems way too complicated. And I'm also, again, not really interested in all of the characters, but I am interested in a select few. And I thought initially that I didn't care for Batman. It just felt like he was way too dark of a character for me. I didn't really vibe with him. But, and I guess this is a bit of a tangent, but I also really love movies besides books. And I love the Zack Snyder DC movies. I know that people have opinions about them, but I really, really like them. And I rewatch them every year. It's become a thing. And I especially, every time I watch them, I especially like Ben Affleck's portrayal of Batman more. And so I'm sort of a Batman girly right now, and so I tried out Hush, and I think Hush, first of all, I really, really liked the art style, but then Hush it's a really good book if you know the basics about Batman, but you don't know that much, because it touches on pretty much every single important Batman character. It touches on a bunch of characters from the Bat family. It touches on a bunch of Batman villains, like really iconic villains. And it's a detective story as well. Like the whole book, the whole crux of the book is a detective story, which Batman, I feel like a lot of times people forget that he's supposed to be a great detective and mostly focus on the superhero part of it, which is fine. I like the battles too, but seeing him actually try to discover and solve a mystery and then using his gadgets and all of that, I just loved it so much. So I would actually highly recommend it if you are kind of sort of interested in comics, especially maybe Batman comics or DC comics, and you don't know where to start. It's great. Like, I'm a newbie. I don't read DC comics especially, but I loved it. So highly recommend. Okay, next is favorite new author or, debut or new to you author. I don't really have an answer for this because I didn't really explore. First of all, I didn't read that much this year yet, but also I didn't really explore a new author. However, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mention an author who I really, really liked the way they wrote a specific book. And so I'm so curious about their backlist now. And that is Stephanie Garber, because I read Once Upon a Broken Heart this year. And here's the thing. Stephanie Garber has another series that is the 𝐜𝐴 trilogy. I don't know the name of the trilogy, but I'm pretty sure it's a trilogy. It starts with 𝐜𝐴, and I know that people have some mixed feelings on it, and I never wanted to read it. Like, I was never interested. I actually have a friend that didn't even like it, so I didn't feel inclined to read it, but I loved Once Upon a Broken Heart. I really did. It's not a new favorite, but it's definitely one of those reads that if you just want to relax and read something cozy and whimsical and fun, this is perfect. And I think one thing that I really enjoyed about this book was that Stephanie Garber she grabbed a bunch of like fairy tale type things and included them in her world, and she created a fairy tale sort of world. And it's kind of playing off of a ton of fairy tale and fantasy tropes in a very kind of out there and exaggerated way, but in the most fun and, I don't know, silly way. It's so delightful. And so, yeah, I want to read 𝐜𝐴 now because of this book. And I want to continue the series, obviously. And the reason why I also want to read 𝐜𝐴 is because the series are connected. I know that you don't need to read 𝐜𝐴 to read the series, but now I want to know more. Okay, so next we have newest fictional crush. I'm not going to answer this one. I don't get crushes, and I don't even no. Next, we have newest favorite character. And so now I'm going to cheat a little again because I didn't meet this character this year, but I haven't talked enough about this series yet, or this character. And I finished the series this year, so I'm going to talk about her. It's Malta from the Life Ship Traders trilogy. I just love her so much, and I will tell you, I was really excited to finish this series, not just because I wanted to know what would happen to the characters, but also because I wanted to jump into the Tony Mann trilogy right away. I missed Fitz so much, but then now I'm reading the Tony Mann trilogy and I miss Malta because I just loved her so much. She was a character who, in the first book in the Life Ship Traders trilogy, just annoyed me so much. She was by far my least favorite POV of that book. Malta is a child in the beginning. She's like 12 or 13, something like that. And she's a child, but she's wanting to grow up way too quickly. And she has some bad traits that she inherited from her father, definitely. And she's not the best. She's not the easiest to deal with, but she undergoes so much growth that is so lovely to see. I love how strong she is and how devoted she is when she actually wants to accomplish something, how smart she is. I just love her so much, and I wish we could be friends. I don't know. I just love her, so definitely Malta. And I have to talk about her because there is no other character that I've met this year that I like quite as much as I like her, so it has to be her. The next question is, book that made you cry. So I definitely cry with a lot, but I didn't cry with most of the books that I read this year. I cried a bunch with 𝐜𝐸𝐧𝐭𝐚𝐜𝐭, like I said, but I'm actually going to talk about The Toll by Neil Shusterman, which is the last book in the 𝐜𝐸𝐧 trilogy. By the way, I have these books, some of them, but I don't want to pick them up, so I'm just gonna put the picture. But it's the last book in the Arc of a 𝐜𝐸𝐧 trilogy, which is just some of my favorite YA books. 𝐜𝐸𝐧 is one of my favorite books of all time. I love Rowan so much, who is one of the main characters, and this is set in a world where we've conquered death, and so you're following these characters who are 𝐜𝐸𝐧 apprentices, and 𝐜𝐸𝐧s are these people who essentially kill others to control overpopulation, and this author just touches on so many really curious aspects of humanity and morality, and the world building is really, really good. I didn't like this book nearly as much as the other two because it doesn't focus on the main characters quite as much, and they're my favorites, but I still really, really liked everything that Neil Shusterman did. So I still really enjoyed it, and I cried so much with what we did get to see with the main characters, and their ending just touched me so much. So definitely The Toll. I wanted to shout it out because, again, I didn't talk about this year yet on my channel, but I did read it and I finished it, and I highly recommend the trilogy, so there you go. Question 11 is, book that made you happy. So for this one, I'm going with The Sign of Affection Volume 1, and Volume 1 because I loved it, first of all, but also it's the first time you meet these characters and you're following Yuki, who is the main character. She's deaf and she is a college student, and she falls in love with this guy named Itsuomi who travels a lot, and she finds him really fascinating. Also because of that, like, he's really smart, he's really knowledgeable, and he shares that knowledge with her, and she wants to travel with him, and he in turn wants to learn more about her and learn sign language as well. It touches a lot on how sign language works in Japan, and the author shows a lot of words and everything. The author essentially teaches you a little bit of Japanese sign language, and that's something that you can see while reading the manga that the author really had. She really paid attention to that and had that in mind when creating the manga, and how to better show certain signs. So yes, I definitely really, really like that. And the side characters are really sweet as well. The relationship is the sweetest. It's just a really lovely manga, and yeah, I highly recommend it. It's obviously a romance manga, so if you're interested, I do recommend it. Next question is, most beautiful book you've bought or received so far this year. Okay, so for this one, I can choose. I have these two. I have Forging Silver into Stars and We Hunt the Flame. Both are really pretty. I think if I had to choose, I would choose Forging Silver into Stars, but I think they're both really pretty, so look at them, appreciate them. They're kind of the same style. They're probably UK covers because I'm in Portugal, so that would make sense. But yes, definitely they're really, really pretty, and I can't wait to read them, actually. And the last question is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? So obviously these two that I just showed you, but I have a ton of books that I still need to read. Let me actually check what books I'm planning on reading still, because let me tell you about the fantasy books that I'm planning on reading still. Let's see. Okay, yeah, so I have here Malice by John Gwynne. I really want to read that one. Bloodsong by Anthony Ryan. These are all adult fantasies, by the way. The Queen of the Tearling, The Ember Blade, City of Lies. I definitely really want to try The Eye of the World, the first book in the Wheel of Time series. I have The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I have a lot of things. I know that's sci-fi, by the way, not adult fantasy. But yes, I would like to try Discworld. I don't know where to start with that one, but yes, I definitely won't get to all of these, but there's options, and next year, hopefully I will get to all of these, at least by next year. So there's that. Alright, so that's it. Those were all the questions. I had a great time. It was really, really fun going through the books that I read, the ones that I plan on reading. Let me know in the comments what the best book of the year so far was for you. And that's it from me for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!